The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Welcome back to another Dark Side of the Pooch. He is Dr. Rab Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital out there in beautiful Rossbridge, rossbridgevet.com. You can check him out, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast. We are available every single day of the week. You can hear this show 5 days a week. And Dr. Rab, of course, 2080301. You can also check him out on his email as well. He joined us right now. A little show we do about pet care, primarily dogs and cats, but we talk about giraffes and guinea pigs and chinchillas and bearded clams and stuff like that, right?
Music and baseball cards.
Exactly. We talk about a little bit of everything. What's going on there at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital? Happy holidays.
Hey, happy holidays. Merry Christmas, specifically on my end anyway, and all the other holidays that people celebrate.
Sure. Anything else? Anything new going on? Any exciting stories? You always have something. You had something about the dog who had eaten the piece of string, I guess, the last time we had you.
Yeah.
Which was a crazy story.
Yeah. Okay. So I can give you an update on that.
Oh yeah. I want to hear that.
It's kind of interesting. So that dog came back in and it had, I think when we had talked, its incision had opened.
Yes.
Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. It had surgery and then it was like 5 or 6 days later and it started opening up on its own. Yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up opening that dog up and it was just a mess. And I don't remember when we recorded that show if we had done that yet or not, but we ended up referring it. We closed the incision because there was just a really nasty, infected, huge chunk of fibrous tissue. It didn't really make much sense, and all the intestines in the stomach was adhered to that. And our fear was that if we manipulated that too much, that the intestines in the stomach could basically just deteriorate. So we closed the dog up and we send it to a specialist, send it to a board certified surgeon. And they were able to go in there, and what had happened, because it was basically a bomb, about to go off.
Yeah.
So what had happened was the abdomen has this kind of a netting around it. It's a tissue. I mean, it looks a lot like a fishing net, but it's tissue. It's called omentum. And the omentum, it's kind of like a net around the abdominal organs. And it doesn't hold things in place so much, but it's a bed of small blood vessels. And you're supposed to, anytime you make an incision into the intestines or the stomach, you use that omentum almost as a Band-Aid. You lay it over your incision. And what that's supposed to do is to prevent adhesions, because when you have an incision over the intestine, sometimes what can happen is another portion of the intestine can lay on the incision. And what that will do is, since you've made an incision there, those two areas will stick together. So intestines are supposed to kind of be free floating. If you think of a garden hose and you have a garden hose and you ball it all up, that's the intestine. But also think about if you have one of those loops of garden hose and they fused with another side of the garden hose, another, end, kind of like that. Well, that restricts movement. It restricts blood flow. And so that can be very bad. So when you make an incision, you want to lay the omentum over it so you don't get that adhesion with the bowel. But so this omentum, for whatever reason, at no fault of the...
and what's an omentum?
The omentum is the netting that surrounds the abdominal contents.
Gotcha.
So this was no fault of the surgeon at the ER who originally did the surgery. But basically that omentum, for whatever reason, just died. It died. Like maybe the blood supply was compromised or whatever. And so it created this, just nasty fibrous tissue. And when you have something like that in the abdomen that's, causing infection and things like that, it's very, very dicey to remove. So the surgeon was able to remove it and the dog's doing great.
Wow. That's great news. That's great.
Yeah.
And that was just from him ingesting some type of string or something, right?
Yeah. Yep. Ate a bunch of string, and the string got, the surgery got string out and everything, but that omentum, for whatever reason, just died. And it created a huge problem.
That is crazy. And I love stories that turn out good. That's great.
Yeah.
Info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. We got some email questions we'll get to. We always read your email questions. Patsy wants to know, does Phish have a good Christmas album?
Oh, no, they don't.
She said she's been looking, but she can't find one. She said if anyone knows about it, it'd be you.
Yeah, they don't. They have, like, I'm just trying to think. When they did their residency at Madison Square Garden in 2017, they played "Oh Holy Night," because the theme from that night was donut holes. Every show in that run had a donut theme.
Yeah.
So the theme from that night was donut holes. So they played "Oh Holy Night" and a few other songs that had to do with holes and things. Anyway,
nice.
They've also played "Little Drummer Boy."
Nice.
And they'll play it. They don't do it anymore, but they would play it randomly. It didn't even have to be around Christmas time. But Phish is named. They get their name from the drummer John Fishman. And so Trey will sometimes, goof around because John Fishman is, kind of small. He's a little guy. Uh-huh. So Trey will sometimes break into Little Drummer Boy for John Fishman. Nice. So they've played a couple of Christmas songs, but they don't have an album. They also used to do a fair bit of a cappella, which surprisingly they sound really good, but they would do some like almost barbershop quartet kind of stuff in the early days. And they don't do it much anymore, but they'll do some acapella stuff. And then they just had an archive release from '94, a show in Boone. They did it to kind of help, recovery there. They released a show they hadn't released in a while, and all the proceeds went to, some recovery stuff in Boone. But so that show, they did an a cappella version of Amazing Grace, and it sounds great.
Wow. I'll bet you it is. It's surprising because I've heard a lot of Train this year. I don't know if Train just came out with a Christmas album or it's been out for a while, and it sounds fantastic. I mean, it's not, I used to like Train. I love their music. And so it sounds like them, but it doesn't sound like them. And they pretty much stick to the original way that the music was set up. They're not putting their own twist on it. So, and I kind of like that. It's keeping the classical feel to it. But I mean, to this point now, it's like I would think every band would want to have a Christmas album just to have it to live. You know what I mean? 50 years from now, I mean, AC/DC's got like one song. I think it's called Mistress for Christmas or something. I don't know. I think it's the only, and granted, it's AC/DC. I don't know how good it would sound to hear them do Christmas music, but I mean, everyone should have at least one Christmas album. So at least when they die, we can go back 30 or 40 years from now and listen to their music this time of year, I think.
Yeah. So I'll give you a few recommendations for Christmas albums.
Yeah.
The Flaming Lips have one that's really, really good. Okay. It's pretty it's more of an instrumental album. Mm-hmm. I think it's fantastic. And then Jimmy Fallon came out with one recently, Holiday Seasoning. Yeah. And it's mostly original songs. He's got a few guests. I'm not real big on, popular pop music, but he's got Meghan Trainor sings a song on there. Megan Thee Stallion is on there. Justin Timberlake, Will Ferrell does a song with him. One of the Jonas Brothers, and it's mostly original songs. It's kind of silly. Yeah. But we listened to that coming back from Atlanta this weekend. It was good. And Jimmy Buffett's got a pretty good Christmas album. I like his album. I don't know how long it's been out, but I think it's fairly new.
Yeah. God rest his soul. I can't believe he's not here for this Christmas. It's hard to believe. Isn't that crazy? Yep. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net, Rossbridge Animal Hospitals, Dr. Reb Stewart. By the way, this show is brought to you by Sasquatch Toys and Comics. They're down there in Citation Lane, and they are just getting after it, man. This is the time of the year. As a matter of fact, you can be seeing Seth and his entire crew on ABC 3340, the starting lineup this Saturday morning. They're going to bring some of their most expensive toys, things still in the boxes, and comics from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Any toys or comics or anything like that, Star Wars stuff, Lego stuff, check out Sasquatch Toys and Comics down there on Citation Lane in Homewood. They're getting after it. Tom wants to know, how often do dogs get sinus infections?
A proper sinus infection, not super often, but they do get a lot of upper respiratory infections.
Do they have the same? Does it turn green, and do they sound snotty, or what do they? How do they get rid of it?
So dog sinus infections, the main way they get rhinitis. So, that's kind of the nasal cavity. Mm-hmm. It can be inflammatory or it can be infectious. They can also get sinus infections from their teeth. So if they have a tooth root abscess, that tooth root can sometimes mess with their sinuses. But traditional sinus infection like we get, not exactly, but they do get some things that would give them the same kind of symptoms. Okay. And of course they get a lot of upper respiratory infections. We see that all the time, upper respiratory infections in dogs, either viral or bacterial. And then that can lead, any of those things can lead to pneumonia. We saw a dog last week that started out with upper respiratory infection. And then they got pneumonia. And that's the weird thing is sometimes dogs aren't really great at telling you when they're sick. I know we've been over that a lot before, but this dog came in, it had lost 10 pounds. It was only like a 60-pound dog. It lost like 10 pounds. Wow. So that's a pretty significant amount of body weight. And the owners just really didn't have any idea. The dog wasn't doing a whole lot of coughing, but it would cough occasionally. And it did have some really kind of thick green nasal discharge. And that dog started out with an upper respiratory infection, and it was coughing more when it had that. But sometimes when they get pneumonia, they don't cough a lot. Maybe it's too painful or, for whatever reason. So their main thing was the dog had stopped eating. So we brought it in and x-rayed it. And sure enough, you can see it.
Yeah. They're losing weight and they're not eating, something's going on. Yeah, because dogs always eat. Tabitha in Northport wants to know, she's heard us talk about how we should take care of the teeth of our animals. She's like, I do not have my dog's teeth brushed as of yet, but she's thinking about bringing it and doing it at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. She wants to know what happens to dogs' teeth if they crack, if they break. Is it painful for a dog? And then do dogs wear bridges? Do you do connections? What do you do with dogs if they don't have all their teeth?
Dogs' teeth can, once they're diseased, they can be painful. If they get significant tartar buildup, or even if it's not a lot of tartar buildup, they'll get gingivitis, and it will cause inflamed and painful gums. Dogs are pretty tough, so they can a lot of times just kind of fight through it. They'll still continue to eat because, as we know, dogs, they're motivated by food, so they'll continue to eat. And so people will say, well, I don't feel like my dog's really in any pain. It's still eating. But if you look at the gum line and it's inflamed, inflamed tissue is painful. Yeah. There's no getting around that. Whether you think the dog's painful or not, they're painful. They don't. So probably the extent of kind of advanced dental work that dogs get is they can get root canals. Now they can. So for example, probably one of the most common tooth injuries that we see is the upper fourth premolar. So we're talking about the maxilla, so the top part of the jaw, the fourth premolar back. So it's basically halfway down the snout. If they chew on hard things, they will fracture that tooth. And when they fracture that tooth, the cavity is open. The pulp canal is open. And so eventually that tooth will die, and it can, have a lot of problems. But what you can do is you can have a root canal done, and it can salvage the tooth. But it's something that it's like, general people like me don't do. What we would do is just pull the tooth. Yeah. We would just pull it. But if you wanted to save the tooth, there's a guy in town. All he does is dentistry and orofacial surgery. So we can send you to him. But, most people don't want to go that route. They're just like, just pull the tooth. I'd rather pay whatever it is, $200 to pull the tooth than, double or triple that for the root canal.
So I think the idea is, and it sounds like she wants to get this done, but I think as a pet owner, you're always thinking to yourself, it's like going in for something with the car. You think there's a problem. Next thing you know, they're telling you it's something else. So the idea is they're going to go in and whoever's doing the teeth is going to go, yeah, well, he's got 3 cavities here. He's got this, that, and the other way, and we can do this and this and this to make this better. And her question at the end is, what do you do with something like that? Do you do cavities in dogs? In other words, she don't want to get hit with a $3,000 dental bill. She just wants to get her dog's teeth clean, but she's afraid that she's going to get in there and they're going to tell her he's got all kinds of issues.
Well, ultimately, the decision should be the veterinarian should give the recommendation as to what to do, and give the reasons why. But ultimately, it's the owner's decision what they want to do. So it's definitely have the dog's teeth cleaned. Have the dog's teeth cleaned. Tell them that you would but you require them to call you before they do any extractions or anything other than cleaning the teeth. And that way she ultimately has control. If they call and say, hey, look, our dental x-rays show that your dog has 4 teeth that need to come out. Well, she can say, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I want you to clean what's there and make them look good and get all that bacteria out from underneath the gum line and save what's there. And, maybe we can remove those teeth down the road. If she wants to avoid having, unforeseen things happen, then that's all she's got to do.
Yeah. Do cats lose teeth?
Yeah, cats. So, just like cats have such a different personality than dogs, they also have different mouths. Cats, they don't get the same advanced level of dental disease normally as dogs do. And it probably has to do with some of their chewing habits potentially, but also just their dentition, the way their teeth are. Something really interesting that cats get is they get something called stomatitis. So it's an inflammatory response that their teeth actually cause. Yeah. So they can have totally healthy teeth. This is something that they can have their whole life. I mean, I'm sorry, like right when they're born, they have inflammation of their gums and it can be really serious, and their teeth are healthy. It's the teeth that are causing the problem. So you just have to pull all the teeth. Do they lose fangs? Not fangs. Do they lose their claws? Oh, no. I mean, not unless they pull them out. Like it's not. Will they grow back if they're pulled out? Yeah, but they don't molt, like snakes. I know some like lions and tigers and stuff. They'll lose claws, but they grow back, right? Yeah, they can lose them, but they're not meant to lose them. Yeah, gotcha. All right, tell people how they can find you, man. I know we have a short show today, but it's super busy around the holidays. What you got going on? Tell people how they can find you. Yeah, you can find us. You can email us, rossbridgeanimalhospital@gmail.com. You can call us at 208-0301, or you can find us on Facebook. Show brought to you by Sasquatch Toys and Comics. Comics from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Unopened boxes, toys, watches, Battlestar Galactica, Star Wars, you name it. Legos, they got all kinds of wonderful stuff down there. Check out his brand new store, Sasquatch Toys and Comics. It's Seth Cosby down there in beautiful Homewood. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. We'll catch up next week. Hey, that's going to be must-watch TV when Seth is on your show. If he's bringing the expensive stuff, I'm excited for that. That's going to be really cool. It's good stuff. We'll do it.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.